All right, bet. Yeah, let's go. Um, so just like it's the same bias as last week. It's just the only issue is we're still continuing higher, and I really like you're gonna hear me complain about this every fucking week. I hate I hate this right here. I really wish we could have a quote unquote volume provider for this index, just because it's really beneficial. But here's the issue, right? So when I was concerned about this rallying up, it was because of momentum, right? So I believe it was there, and then obviously from here, right? So to cover less distance, it took more candles. Well, yeah, it took more candles, and it made it to a less distance than this initial first ride up. So that obviously inclined me to beware of that bullish movement. And then after that happened, it's we got an engulfing, and then when we go to H4, that's a pretty much a very like significant or very noticeable structure shift, as we can see. All right, so if you follow the Twitter, it's like basically the same chart I posted on there, but it's just you obviously see the shift of structure there. We break a higher previous lower high, create a higher high, and then we secure the higher low, which really inclines that bullish momentum. But it's just like this is struggling. And do y'all understand what I mean by struggling? I know my old members are gonna know that, but do my new guys know what I mean by price is struggling?
Do you just mean like it's like really struggling to like gain momentum?
Exactly. So it's like in that context, it's back to the whole momentum stuff. So now we're looking at this bearish move in comparison. Yo, leave me alone. And then comparison to the now recovery, it could be technically, right? And when we're looking at how strong that move is, right, 38 bars versus basically about to be 38 bars tomorrow. So we're approaching a basically a make it or break it moment where it's either this is gonna fly or this is gonna die. So I know this will probably continue because I have no reason to believe it's gonna reverse anytime soon. And in terms of intraday structure, right, this is still bullish, right? When we're looking at previous highs, right, and previous lows, right, those were taken out, new high, new low. So now we're potentially still moving up. And it's just a matter of is it going to break or is it going to, sustain price and then bring lower? But the only quote unquote area that I'd even be paying attention to here now is H1 here and inefficient pricing. And that's what I'm waiting for. And we'll probably see this pricing tomorrow morning. And depending on when we see the pricing is going to determine whether or not it's going to reverse. So like if we get this reaction during London, then I wake up and it's already been reacted, then I'm like, fuck, this is probably going to keep going up. But if we see a stall and then we see a spike during overlap or the end of London, then that you would see that. But it's just like it's a matter of timing. And the issue with this now is the fact that I don't see anything on EURUSD in terms of intraday besides the inefficient pricing here that's pretty much kind of been tapped. But it's like I don't really want a reversal chase here, right? Even though I am bullish from a monthly basis, there is a high chance that the monthly bias isn't going to work out. So it's it's at a point now where it's like I don't even want to trade it. I just want to chill and see what it wants to do because obviously I still have positions in from the bottom, and then here, and then I have a sell here. So it's like I don't really need to do anything. But when I'm thinking long-term positions or long-term bias, I want to accumulate those entries, right? I want to accumulate them so that then that's how you gain a big return through time. But I don't want that to influence me to want to force trades. Like, for example, this morning, right, when I was trying to catch that, it was like 10 a.m. when this happened. Well, first off, let me show you guys what I was looking at. It was right here. Yeah, it was right here. So even though I was pretty much fighting momentum, the first thing I saw here was the fact that we had inefficient pricing there, but there is still a wick here. So I want to find out what's in that wick and see if anything is interesting in that perspective. So it's like, I forgot what time frame it was. I think it was 1 minute. Yeah, it was 1 minute. So what I was seeing is that there and the closure there, right? But you're going to tell me, oh, you see that indecision, 2 candles next to it? Yeah, I do see it. I see that indecision. So what I do is I think about it. And in this perspective, this is already like a 2-pip range. Yeah, it's a 2-pip range. So this wick here, where it could potentially be like in the seconds time frame, you could see another buy to a sell to buy or whatever. That's already inside the point of interest. And the closure of this is below the wick of that. So if this is the answer, then this will react at the 50%. Right? So what happens? Right? We react perfectly here. And that was where I caught my buy. And then as soon as that happened, let's see. Let's take it to there. Because I was out of this trade within like 30 minutes. So I had positions here, here, and then I also wanted the conservative entry, which was here. Let me show. Hold on. Let me show you guys. So automatically, these positions, they went break even as soon as we broke, right, that previous structure high, right? That broke. So I'm like, okay, break even, break even. So now what I'm seeing, let me take this out. So now what I'm seeing is potential corrective structure. Potential corrective structure to rally higher. And that's what I wanted, right? Especially because this position here, right? The stop loss would be under that low. I did enter somewhere here and I was hoping to get that 2-pip stop there and then to rally up and catch that 12 p.m. closure for me. That would have been a great closure if this would have continued rallying. But unfortunately, once we saw the break here, right? So when I see the break, I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And this is struggling, struggling, struggling. And then we see the wicks of rejection. But the issue with these wicks of rejection is that there's no present volume shown. When you're zooming out, if you see the volume pretty much sustain itself. But when we're in this area here, where we're wanting to see the bullish volume rally to counteract that selling pressure, there's none existent. So if you're entering here or even here, right, automatically when you see a candle like that and engulfing, just straight up engulf. Let's see how many candles that was. That straight up engulfed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 candles. So that automatically engulfed that. So that automatically there, you cut the trade, right? Unfortunately, I didn't fucking see this until like it was like down here already. So I pretty much lost like a pip or two. Unfortunate here, but then here I closed those with like a couple pips in profit, so it's nothing major. But automatically, when you're thinking trade management, as soon as you see this, right, and a bearish engulfing that covers 10 previous candles, and then the bullish volume where you wanted it to rally, right, to quote unquote break that bullish flag there, had no supporting volume, right? And then that engulfs, so that's automatically get out of the trade because you know at the end of the day you're trying to catch a reversal there. So if anything, you can either exit and dip or essentially switch the bias. And me personally, it's really hard for me to change the bias. All right, so whenever I cut a trade, I'm done. I'm moving on, waiting till either the next day or the next potential opportunity, right? But in reality, it's just like any retracement here, right, is now a continuation to downside because when you're thinking momentum, right, there's 3 candles there, but to get to that same point from here, it's so annoying. To get to that same point, right, you see the difference in time, right? And that obviously shows where momentum is heading, right? So when you're thinking continuation trades, right, you always want that premium pricing for sells, and which is here. That's your premium pricing, right? And that's your continuation. Unfortunately, in terms of entering off rules of an SC or an efficiency, that didn't reach an efficiency fill there. But if you look at the 2-minute, actually, let me zoom out a little bit more. Is it 4-minute? Okay, well, it's not showing me what I want. But what I'm trying to say here is this candle here can also be a point of reference because it's a previous, technically it's a previous high, right? So you're now approaching a test of quote unquote inefficiency on a time frame that I can't find, and you're also approaching premium pricing, even though that stop loss can be relatively high at 3.5 pips. That still continued for obviously that would have been a 3-to-1 or almost a 3-to-1 there. But let me take off replay mode. But the fact that you're continuing trend, right? That 3.5 pip stop, right? Then went for 25 pips ish. So that's about an 8-to-1 in a matter of 2 hours. So that's not bad at all, you know? And but me, unfortunately, I can't just switch biases like that. So that's not really something I would have personally taken. Right. But you get the context, you get the perspective, right? Where it's if you're trading one pair and obviously you see that the bias is shifting, then if you're mentally prepared to do that, then do it. Right? Because at the end of the day, we are fighting bearish pressure there. I mean, yeah, we're fighting bearish pressure there. So if anything, I should just be looking to enter off of any previous or any new lower high there, as you can see. Right? So that was like my whole explanation for this morning's trade. But that didn't work out. Oh well, fuck it. Move on. But like I said, I really want to see what happens around this area of interest. And like the reason why I'm really sticking to this trade is also because like look, that's a distribution that I showed you. It's somewhere in the previous markups, but that's a distribution schematic there. And unfortunately, if we see that break now, then rip. This is gonna fly. But if I see it hold, then maybe there's still hope. But it's just like at this point now, it's like this is getting to a point where it's gonna pop, but we don't know which direction is gonna pop. Obviously, people are bullish on this from a fundamental basis because $6 trillion was just pumped by the Fed. So there's so much more money, and that's why you saw so much volatility. Well, actually, that was the Rona stuff, but that's why you're seeing so much quote unquote insecurities in the market because there is a bunch of money in, but price is unsure of which direction it wants to take. Obviously, from this bias here, it looks like this wants to tank. But since I'm trying to support my monthly bias, I'm waiting to see what happens in 7 days and 19 hours. And then from there, I'm going to judge what's going to happen for the next couple, weeks, months. So, yeah, I mean, outside of that, I'm just waiting. I really want to see how this plays out for the rest of the week and then really pay attention to that weekly closure this week because that's going to be crucial. And as you can see, diminishment of volume here. So something's gonna happen probably within the next 2 weeks, hopefully. But yeah, whichever way it goes, benefit from it, get your setup in, and go from there. But yeah, I mean, that's my little rant for today, though. Try to make it quick, simple, straightforward. But yeah, let's see. But yeah, what are you guys trading this week?
I got GU, bro. I got that move, the one I sent in the chat. I think it was to when he said it was bullish, but I was like, is this going
I said it was
no?
bullish.
No. What's his name? He sent it in the chat.
Yeah, I don't really want to consider this bullish because of, I think it was last week's closure. Yeah, because of last week's closure. Yeah, I don't trade this at all, but I saw that. And in terms of, concepts here, all right, technically 50% there, but from your cheap premium pricing, let's see. But yeah, that's interesting to look at in terms of continuing trend to downside. That's really interesting. I'd like to see that lower.
Because look, today in the morning,
Uh-huh.
right down that hour from yesterday, that big engulfing, yesterday at 9 a.m. No, to the left, right to the left. There, if you click on the hour or if you zoom into the 30,
there's
an inefficiency there, and that where you were at right now hit it, and it put me in a sell right there. So I'm still in it, but I got it writing down to break that liquidity at. Hold on, let me tell you where I got it at. 121, 674. I see liquidity down there. Of course, I already broke the other liquidity that I had stated earlier in the week, but that's what I got. I don't know if.
Yeah, in terms of like structure downside, this is looking solid, bro. Like going back to the H1, me personally, like that's what I'm really looking at.
And yeah, and that's where it put me in.
Mm-hmm. And when we're looking at momentum, right? This is pretty impulsive. But right when we're looking here, there is pretty much a decrease there in bullish volume. And once you see the bullish volume appear again, look at what happens. Indecision. So that doesn't make sense to me. So that's kind of inclining me to want lower. So when we're looking at this from a momentum perspective, right, this is impulsive to the upside, but it's also impulsive to the downside. So now it's just like I'm hoping for you is that this is just some type of continuation, go down. But what I'm seeing now from just straight from here is just like potentially an inefficiency and clearing those equal highs there. So since it's GU, it could potentially just give you a London spike up and then just roll over and then basically continue lower for London. But I'm really inclined to those sells there. I don't see this pushing up it like just yet anymore. Especially if you break this low.
Yeah, and that's the one I was looking at.
Yeah, and then also when you're also looking at it from like momentum perspective, right? That's impulsive, and then this is corrective. So it's just about trying to see what happens in that POI and then going from there. Because you're in from here, right? From 10?
No, I'm up from right there, from the the point of interest at the very top, right there, where it said pretty much that FU candle at the very top. Because I had it to fill inefficiency there. Yeah, and it got me right there, and I'm in since the morning.
Oh, you're lit then, bro. You should be break even. You should be chilling. For sure, take a partial though. You should have taken a partial. and then just ride that shit. Yeah, bro, because that's an
Yeah.
engulfing there. Yeah, I since your entry is that good, I'm confident in that. But just make sure you manage that trade correctly, and just pay attention
Yeah,
to
I've been watching it. I've been watching it for like the past hours. I was at work and I was like, all right, I'm gonna check it every 2 hours, 3 hours, see where it's at, see what's going on with that with the chart.
Yeah, so
But
there's nothing wrong
yeah,
with that. But yeah, just make sure you're not glued.
no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, those are pretty. Yeah, those are equal. Like, yeah, those are straight equal. Yeah, so that's interesting. Or if you're even looking at it from here, that would make sense here too. I might trade this tomorrow if it gives something interesting, and if it doesn't just happen during London. Got a loss today. I entered once price reacting to 50% on what pair, bro? What pair? What pair?
I think he might have been looking at GU too, bro. Because that's I think Carlos is the one that I sent my charts to earlier this week.
GU, but where? What's he saying? 50% where?
Hour 1, 50%. I'm assuming
You entered off of
inefficiency
here,
around
though.
there.
You entered
Yeah,
off of here.
entered.
That means you entered off of here. So let's see what you were saying. Let me see what time it was first. 5 a.m. Yeah, so you're mid London. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Let's see what you were saying though in terms of reaction. All right. So if you entered off of this reaction, right, automatically, as soon as you break that structure point there, your stop loss is at break even, right? And then when you're looking at that and you're trying to manage that trade, so I would have been worried here, right? So even if you didn't put your stop loss at break even there, that kind of bothers me. Hold on, there. So even if your stop loss isn't at break even after that point breaks, right? It's just once you see this happen here, that's a structure break to the upside. So if you're not hedging here while you're in sells here, maybe potentially buying here, or even if you're not buying there, you should be break even there. Right? I see what you're seeing. Like you might potentially think that's distribution. It's not, but I can see why you're thinking that and why you're assuming that that's the drop there. But remember, reactions aren't always follow throughs. That's like one of the main things where people mess up with these concepts. That's why I like to manage the trade until like a full on intraday structure breaks, not just these scalping structures here.
Fredo, I entered later.
Where'd you
I mean,
enter?
after the, let me, over here. You see?
Oh, okay. So you entered here. So
yeah.
So why are you entering here?
Because I mean, like I wait like the structure to break, and I don't know. I didn't find any SC over there, but I was thinking maybe
you can talk to me in Spanish, bro. I can translate for them.
Okay, en segundo, pensé que había, como no tengo el chart de 30 segundos, puse ahí, o sea, el límite. Tuve un poquito en profit y después me voló el stop loss. Eso era lo que te quería preguntar, o sea, quería ver cómo cómo hubiese podido ser una manera más conservadora una entrada en esa zona. Después fue a llenar la inefficiency completa y sí bajó, y fue aquí el bajón, pues.
So okay, I'm gonna answer it in English so everybody can understand.
Okay,
Right?
no
So
problem.
what he's telling me is that he saw this candle here, and he looked in the 30 seconds, and in the 30 seconds he saw something, and that's what he executed off of. But so his bias, right, is still that 50% inefficiency. But hold on, let me find it. But that 50% inefficiency already reacted. So once it's already reacted, it's not valid anymore. Once it's reacted once, like if an open of an SC reacts and it comes back to the open, it's not valid anymore. So in this case, right, when you're looking at this, where was it? Yeah, it was right here. So here, right, if you're selling here after it's already reacted and after this happened here, right, the break of structure here, then you have to assume that based off of structure, this is making another impulse. You have to assume that because structure is intact. And not to mention, when you sell here, you're selling equal highs. So you're selling equal highs, right? For one, you're trying to guess the reversal there, right? Whereas if you could have waited, right, here, right, you get the impulse that takes out the equal highs. So now is when you want to, quote unquote, assume a change of momentum. And also, this is your inefficiency fill, right? So in inefficiency, your optimal is the 50%, but that doesn't mean that you disregard the full on, efficiency fill. So in this case, you're selling equal highs. All right. You get me, Carlos?
Yeah, I understand. Thanks.
Yeah. So just make sure you're not selling equal highs or buying equal lows, right? And also think about timing, right? In this case, so you see this case, the timing isn't really that bad, but the optimal entries, in my opinion, for any USD pair is overlap or just right before overlap. And as you can see, this happened 40 minutes before New York open. So we're approaching New York session, trying to catch New York volatility. So in this case, right, if you take the trade off this quote unquote, rejection from the inefficiency fill, then you're catching the full on trend shift there. But if you want to be conservative, right, after this reaction, right, let me just take everything out. We get the reaction here, right, the inefficiency fill there, right? And so now this is our previous higher low, right? Yeah, higher low. So the reaction, look at this reaction, right? So we come back, we make like a 98% retracement. So now these are our new set of equal lows, right? So now we should be trying to take out those equal lows as your first target, right? So now when we look back up, what do we see? Right? SC takes out previous liquidity. %50. 3 pips stop, right? First target, equal lows, 7 to 1. That's your first target. And look, I know what you guys are. Some of you are thinking is that, oh, what about? Well, actually, technically, if people want to call this equal highs, but in reality, those were taken out by the same candle. It's slight. But you can see it there. I'm gonna zoom in just to prove my point, just because I want to be petty. right? So you see that wick at the top there? It even took out that, so these are not considered equal highs. All right, that's just for your information. So if anything, that's just a partial or just a slight tap of inefficiency fill there. Slight tap. So if any, you're never gonna catch this. Like honestly, I'm never gonna catch that type of trade because my rules aren't set out for that. So we catch the conservative trade. That makes more sense. So we now have a rejection from a quote unquote, well, I think it was H1, yeah. So we have the H1 inefficiency fill there, and then we have the reaction that basically gave you a 90-something% retracement here. Not to mention that this wanted to rally once and twice. Right. So if it was going to rally and take out that high, it would have already taken it out. So since it didn't do that, this is considered a scalping break of structure there. So now we know that momentum is wanting to shift, and we get the 50% of the SC here, right, to perfection. And now you're writing this to the straight up dies. Actually, no, let me go to 50-minute. Yeah, cool. So now you're writing this to, that's TP1. TP2 is obviously the next low. Right, 10-1. Right, next low, next target. 19-1. Right, next target didn't hit yet potentially, but that's 25-1. And you see like the potential there, and that's off of, that stop loss is relatively big too. It's a 3-pip stop loss. That probably could have, if you would have found like maybe a better entry or more conservative entry, then you could have probably had an entry lower, but it probably would have been better RR. So that's just like the structure from the point for me there. And also just to add on to that, it's also like, like literally New York started, wrong one. New York opened like as soon as I'm seeing that setup. So my overlap is obviously when I want to get my best entries. Obviously not the best entry as in the highest or the lowest entry, but the most conservative. And even if I only trade that session, right, I would have came out with a potential of 20-1. But if I would have closed at the end of New York, at the end of London, then that still would have been a 15-1, and that's solid for one day, So that's just how I would have gone about it. I probably ran it on a bit there.
A good explanation, man.
Yeah, we could have got a Fredo Spanish review. No. I'll
Sí,
talk
hombre,
Spanish
sales
to the
el
people
español
in my
bien.
DMs that speak Spanish to me. You caught that one after that entry? Which one? Like if I was
the lower
really
high
thinking about
after it.
Oh, you entered off of here. You entered here?
Yeah, that was I saw the I was looking at the 5-minute chart and I saw the inefficiency field and I took the entry.
All right, cool. And where was your stop?
Right there.
Yeah. So you entered. This is the inefficiency field here.
Yeah.
And where was your stop?
My stop was 8 pips, and I think I put it above like a potential SC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, above this 9 pips. Yeah. So that RR wasn't the best, but
exactly
when you're thinking in this context now, let's say you missed that entry, right? But
right.
you know that the lower high is assured here. So now you get the engulfing, or not. Well, I don't even want to consider that engulfing, but that's kind of like just like an impulse down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from here, if you want to try to increase RR from that point, let me take that off. Right now, I want to enter in premium anywhere in those 2 wicks, and you could easily put your stop above that previous high. But that's just because you've already basically confirmed, right? Double indecision around an
Right.
inefficiency fill, and you're already seeing the structure shift. Not to mention you have equal lows here.
Mm-hmm.
So your aim is to take that out. So cool, you can just get premium pricing, get that 4 pip stop. First target, 12 pips, 3 to 1. Right, and that goes for how many pips? So
Went for like 50.
So you see
Yeah.
50. Yeah, so that's already like a 12 to 1. Right, so not it's good, but it can be better, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
Our
the whole
account on
point.
that trade was like
Like a 3
it
to
was
1.
it was like a little bit over 10%.
Oh, okay. No, oh yeah, I'm doing the math wrong. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then also, bro, here's the thing. Like you can accommodate your rules to the point where if you have that big of a stop, you can use 2%. Right? So even if like let's say you have that entry from here
Right.
and you have that 9 pip there. So this would have gone for a total of like 6%, right? So now if that stop is that big and you're comfortable with it, then risk 2%.
Right. And you can
Risk
double
3%.
and,
Yeah,
and that
so
would be considered a 12%.
yeah, so it's considered a 12% win. And
Yeah.
so you're still conservative in the fact that you're managing your risk correctly, but
Uh-huh.
now you're understanding that the RR, you not in that situation, you yourself couldn't get the RR that high. So now you ideally want to just quote unquote risk more to meet your goals for the week.
For sure.
So yeah, that's chilling. But either way,
That's cool.
in that perspective, in that point of view though, I would have put my stop above that previous high though.
Right.
Because if that high breaks, then we're fucked. But this is gonna moon. Because that's a structure break there. Even above that previous wick there. So that's like a 6 pip.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 5 pip. So you see that would have drastically increased it there too. Went from a 6 to 1 to 11 to 1. And if you want that, it's 22%. Not to mention, you could still hold this. You know, like you could still easily be in that because once we break this here.
Yeah, I saw a good amount of intraday structure breaks.
That's a straight up intraday structure. Not to mention, that daily is pretty bearish, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that daily looks really bearish. And yesterday's closure, yeah, I'd really incline to that. But it's a matter of time, bro. But just know that if that breaks here, that's a wrap.
Oh yeah.
Like you're then seeing potential targets to probably the 50% of that inefficiency there. That's 200 pips, right? You get in on an 8 pip stop.
Right. Yeah, GU is definitely an interesting pair to watch.
Yeah.
This is lately.
32. Yeah. 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty chilling. Yeah, let's see. Do we still have? Yeah, we have 24 in here. All right. Yeah. Let's see who's on the call though. Let me see. Pretty much got everybody in here. Yeah. Just maybe a couple people are missing from Europe, but we pretty much have everybody in. But yeah, what do you guys want to talk about? Or else I can just.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to tell you, man. I've been Oh, my bad. Not to cut the other guy off.
You straight. I don't care.
I just wanted to tell you, very pleased and impressed with the course so far. I haven't got through everything, but it's really like well thought out and put together.
Yeah, bro. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
real
and
good stuff,
you
man.
were with us in starting from like November, right?
Yeah. The OG Visionaries.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were with us
Yep.
from the beginning, and you're still seeing like quote
Oh yeah,
unquote
definitely. I'm
trend and
still
stuff.
learning and progressing for sure.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we're chilling. I mean that the course, bro. Like just being real, it took me. It's all right. I'm gonna be real. It took me 2 weeks. No, it took me like a week to record it, but it took me like 4 months to structure it because every day was like, oh, I can add this, and like I have like a whole. Actually, let me show you guys. I have a note right where I would put notes of stuff that I wanted. Yeah, so I had notes of stuff that I wanted to put in the course and stuff like that. I have another one. So it's like, but that's on another app. But I would like write down stuff that I wanted to put on the course, and it took me like a long time to narrow it down and all that.
Yeah, it's cool how you guys like chopped it up into different sections, so it kind of like keeps you interested and going.
Yeah,
It's good.
and I mean, from the OG people, what do y'all think is the best part? Shout out to Sergio as well. Nah, fuck Sergio.
The simplicity, man. How simplistic you kept it. I can just tell you because I was in RML with you and Sergio back in the day, especially with Sergio from the beginning, man. About 2-3 years ago. From everybody that I've learned up to now, realistically, you've kept it very simple and straight to the point. How it is. You explain what it is and what you need to see, and that's it. And you don't add, the extra sauce or that extra stuff that confuses people.
Yeah, and you know why people get so confused, bro? Well, actually, let's
Why?
just go ahead and end the call. I'm gonna just end the recording there because I don't want to talk shit and like have it recorded. Let's see.